Good morning, everyone. We're just going to take a second, make sure we can be heard in Zoom, and it looks like we can. So, Chair, we'll be ready to begin on time.
Okay. Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of Thursday, July 13th. I call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. And can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get a verification of legal notices?
Yes, everything has been noticed correctly.
Thank you. And we do have one consent agenda item.
Mr. Chair, I move that the minutes from the May 25.
Excuse me, sorry. Before that, could I please request that those minutes get pulled? There were a few typographical errors that just need to be corrected that Ruby will go over.
Yeah, item 6B, I think, needs a verb. That's the only thing I saw.
Okay.
There are a few more. No, you just would remove it, or I guess, yeah, so a motion to remove it from consent agenda and then take it up.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're moving on to public input. Any person may speak for 3 minutes about any subject of concern, provided that it is within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission and is not already on today's agenda or scheduled for a future public hearing. The total time should be 15 minutes, and any speakers may state their first and last name. Yes, they do get 3 minutes. Just a reminder, the Planning Commission meets the second and fourth Thursday of each month at 9 a.m. on 255 North 4th Street, Lakeport, California. The meeting is wheelchair accessible. A request for disability-related modifications or recommendations necessary to participate in the Planning Commission should be made in writing to the Office Assistant 3 at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. So if anybody does wish to speak, you may do so, and please come up to the podium. If not, actually, can we check the Zoom room, see if anybody would like to participate in public input?
There are no hands raised in the Zoom room.
All right, so moving on to our timed item, 6A. Our 9:05 is a presentation by CBG Communications regarding the Lake County Broadband Master Plan update.
Okay, I didn't know, Ruby or Maria, did you want to introduce us, or you want me just to launch right in?
I say launch in.
If I could just go ahead, thank you so much. So the county has contracted with CBG Communications to update our Lake County Broadband Master Plan. We're really excited to be working with this company. Their presentation to the board is thorough, and the activities that they are launching throughout the county to get this updated are significant. So part of their community outreach is also to keep the Planning Commission informed and the public watching our meetings today. So I welcome them and thank you for taking the time today.
Okay, and thank you for allowing us time on your agenda. I know it's super busy, and we appreciate being able to come in and make a presentation to you. So Dick Nielsen, who's our senior engineer, he's got the PowerPoint, which I believe you have a copy of, and he'll be bringing that up on the screen. Dick, do you have screen control? There you go. Okay, and then also with us today is, yeah, you can go ahead and hit it from the beginning. Oh, Dick says he's muted. Dick, are you self-muted or muted on the?
There we
muted
go. I couldn't unmute before, but now I can, so we're good.
Okay, great. Joining us also is Christine Rivers. She's our Senior Research Associate. Dick, you can go to the second slide, and I'll just introduce us a little more. CBG Communications was hired by Lake County earlier this year. We do a lot of broadband planning with local governments, commissions, consortia across the country. Our closest project to Lake County is a project that we began with Napa County a little over 2 years ago, which recently resulted in an RFP related to the federal funding account, which we're awaiting responses on. We've done work for Marin County in the past, so we've worked in the northern Bay Area probably since 2004 on a variety of different projects. So we're pleased to be able to work with Lake County and have really enjoyed the opportunity to work with all the stakeholders. So as I said, Dick Nielsen is our senior engineer. Christine is our senior research associate. Dick works on the availability side. He's been out to Lake County. He's driven a number of the routes, talked with the infrastructure providers, everybody from Mediacom and AT&T to Valley Internet and Lake County Broadband Solutions to try to really get a handle on what's happening broadband-wise in the county. Christine is looking at the adoption side of it, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. We have team partners who are working on the project who are super accomplished with broadband and internet. Dr. Book, President of Telecommunications Research Corporation, she's worked with Pew and United Nations and a number of other entities related to studies of household and business use of internet access and broadband. John Horrigan comes to us. He has his own entity now, but works with Dr. Book, but has worked for the Federal Communications Commission, the NTIA, and also Pew. So, and then finally, Andrew Intrican. Andrew is our GIS specialist and has been working on broadband infrastructure development and mapping projects for a number of years now. So we put this team together. Here's our scope of work. We're nearing the end of the update of the master broadband plan, at least the information gathering stage, and then putting the report together and hoping to present that to the Board of Supervisors at the end of August. The second part of that, but it's actually already started, is developing the written implementation plan. As some of you may know, there's another contractor in the county, Tilson Technologies, along with Utopia, which is an open access network provider, working through the RCRC, is working on a local agency technical assistance grant and already designing some backbone fiber infrastructure in the county. We've been, as I said, working with some of the local vendors already, trying to identify shovel-ready projects. We'll be having some meetings soon with Mediacom to look at opportunities related to CPUC grant funds from the federal funding account grant, over $28 million that's been allocated to projects in the county that are being applied for now with applications due by September 30th. This is all leading us to additional opportunities. The technologies keep changing, the funding sources keep changing. So we'll be looking at that. Regional-based opportunities, really important that consortia, the county's part of a four-county consortium that works on broadband, be involved to look at synergies and cost efficiencies. Seeking and securing sources of grant funding, we're already involved in that too, related to the federal funding account. So the only thing that we aren't doing right now is the last bullet. Even though they were originally planned sequentially, we knew going in that the landscape changes so rapidly that we have to adapt. So we're working on all those pieces all at the same time. Okay, Dick, go ahead. All right, so this is the problem, and it's pretty evident, and I'm sure you're well aware of it. The red is where there really is not either the type of service that's required under the new state and federal initiatives, or there's no service at all, unserved. So you've got unserved and underserved. It looks like a large portion of the not of the geographic area of the county, but if you look at that number of broadband serviceable locations and you look at the 82% that are considered served, now that's service available, but there's no way that all of those households have high capacity service. And a lot of that, again, has to do with adoption characteristics such as affordability, accessibility, things like that. So we really are working on those two fronts. Dick kind of working on the red areas, and Christine and the rest of our team trying to determine where there is high speed access, why isn't it being accessed currently? Okay, Dick, go ahead. This is the CPUC's map related to adoption characteristics, and the red and the brown are the lowest adoption that the CPUC tracks. Some of that has a lot to do with availability. You can't adopt it if it's not available. So there is that interrelationship there. We're going to show you how we're starting to drill down on even the CPUC's sort of large scale numbers and identifying areas that we want to go after with surveys and through trusted entities to identify more about what's occurring. Okay, go ahead, Dick. Okay, this is a really important piece. The state has determined that one of the biggest problems in Lake County is not having the high capacity backbone infrastructure. I mean, you have some that's proprietary to Mediacom, you have some that's proprietary to AT&T, but you don't have any open access network infrastructure. That's what the state's trying to accomplish, and it is a multi-year effort. Lake County is high on the build schedule, but the build schedule's been delayed a bit. But if you take a look at that, if you build a high capacity, essentially, information superhighway, that's what it used to be called, a couple of decades ago, but a high capacity backbone, and then allow ISPs to build off of that at affordable rates, now you're going to start to see some expansion in a cost-effective way. Okay, Dick, go ahead. Okay, so these are the covered populations, and the reason we call them covered populations is the federal and state government has determined that these are the populations where digital equity grants will be provided. Some will flow down through the state, some can be applied for directly by Lake County and other local governments that focus on those that traditionally have issues getting uniform, reliable, affordable internet access, high-speed internet access. So you can see it's some of the traditional ones that you would think of, low-income households, aging individuals, incarcerated individuals, but really looking more at formerly incarcerated individuals and the issues that they have once released from incarceration. Veterans, individuals with all sorts of disabilities. Go ahead, Dick, to the next slide. English language learners are those that have English as a second language, those with low levels of education and literacy, especially digital literacy, individuals that are members of racial and ethnic minorities or underserved populations, individuals who are in a rural area, and of course Lake County is substantially a rural area. Children and youth, we've spent some time, we've done a lot of stakeholder outreach already that's really allowing us to hone in on going directly to the residents. For instance, discussions with First Five and looking at youth that are even before they enter, K through 12 school. And individuals experiencing housing instability, those that either have transient housing or are completely homeless. Okay, Dick, go ahead. So we'll just pull up, we developed this multi-layered interactive map, and we're continuing to work on it. And it will be part of what we present to the board in August. And we wanted to just show you, and you can see how the static maps come out of it. We wanted to just show you one on digital inclusion that we've developed. It's, yeah, the Digital Equity Index. Oh, that's perfect, Dick. Thank you. So if you recall the map that that the state had put together, you can see the interesting both similarities and differences in the way you look at it. There are 4 factors that the federal government especially looks at related to digital inclusion and where funding will go. And of course, you know, again, in the large green area of the county, you know, to the northern part, availability is a big issue. So the federal and state government would look at deployment as one of the big issues there. Whereas in the red areas, again, low digital inclusion, very low digital inclusion, there may be both availability and some of the adoption characteristics that we were looking at. So those 4 are no computer in the household, access to some type of device, whether it's a tablet or laptop, relying on cell phone only, not just for voice, but for data. And then the final one is based on the availability of broadband. Or, you know, I shouldn't say that. It's more complex than that. It's if broadband is available, is it being accessed? So it's penetration rate. So we're starting to look at those areas, and we're really focused now on the red areas and the sort of the blonde areas there, to look at for going after information directly from residents. We're going to do it through a phone survey. It wouldn't be, you know, as you might think, the traditional, you know, random sample survey. It's gonna have a random sample, but it's going to be stratified to really focus on census tracts that show high digital inequity, and that will tell us a lot about the why. So we're beginning to know a lot about the where. We really need to know more about the why, so that when we go after grant funds, we know how best to focus them. Okay, all right, Dick, you can go back to the PowerPoint.
No, you have to push it from inside. You can only open from outside this door and then inside.
Okay, so the next slide. All right, so that's it, kind of in I know it's a really quick nutshell on a gigantic project. But what we wanted to talk with you about today, at least initially consider it, and then we're happy to take, you know, input as you may think about these 2 questions, is from the planning side, you know, from the Planning Commission's perspective, you know, looking at the county as a whole and how you work on planning initiatives. You know, what elements of the plan update, the kinds of things that we just talked about, would be most helpful for current and future planning initiatives? For example, you know, matching broadband deployment to planned redevelopment or new development, or business areas, you know, enterprise areas, new retail, industrial development. And then, you know, as part of that, when you consider both sides of the coin, you know, broadband deployment and digital equity, from a planning perspective, what do you think are the priorities? You know, they could be geographic priorities, they could be, you know, certain types of population priorities. What would you consider the priorities? So with that, what we really wanted to do was just open it up for discussion with the commission. Any questions you have for us, or just any information that you want to provide back to us, would be really helpful.
Thank you very much. I had a question. You know, we get phone surveys a lot, and I'm at the point where I don't even answer the phone unless it's a number that I know. So it's kind of, I guess it's more of a comment than a question. It seems to me like polling the population that's underserved would be really, really valuable. And I'm hoping that you might be able to find a way to do it that would be more effective than phone surveys. And then just another comment, it seems like a future development is going to take that in mind. If we can get service to existing businesses, I think that would be really helpful. I know that when I'm traveling, I like to stop at a coffee shop if they have high-speed internet access. And I can park there for a cup of coffee and get caught up on everything. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and if I could just, a short response to those. Yes, we are working with the Lake County Economic Development Corporation. We've already distributed some business surveys and gotten some back, and we're going through a second effort as well. Again, through associations and things like that, reaching out to their members as, they see them as trusted entities. On the telephone survey, you're absolutely right. You can't just do it that way. We have found it effective when we use cell phones. We have found it effective when we promote it heavily. The county's going to help us do that with outreach, through the website and other means. So we'll have some broad outreach. But you also have to have a multi-method survey. So we will be working with trusted entities to go after both surveys that can be taken through a QR code on the phone. So an online type survey. Online surveys are always tricky when you're dealing with a population that's underserved online. But we do have some impact on that when we can distribute it through libraries, for instance, where people come in for communal access. And the other piece is we will have it available in a written form for people that would be their preferred method of doing it. So we'll take all that, and it will actually start later this month and kind of be one of the last efforts that we have from a information gathering point of view, an analysis before we present it to the board.
I have a couple of questions for you, sir. The commercial side of broadband adoption, do you have any information about how businesses in the county are currently situated, and in terms of attracting new businesses that will want that kind of broadband backbone? Is that part of your analysis?
Yes, it is, and that's one of the things that we're working through the EDC on, because they obviously have a wide sort of reach into the business community. What we're finding out so far is that it is problematic for businesses in the county at this point. Those that have access to it, say to Mediacom Business Communications, through Mediacom's platform, might have a reliable service. However, it's expensive. And so that's an issue. We are finding out from those that have changed from, say, a DSL line to AT&T fiber, that while they can see the long-term investment in it as being something that's useful from a cost perspective, that they're having substantial transition issues, including, unreliable transition, creating problems for them during the transition. So those are the kinds of things we're finding out, and yes, we will essentially catalog those, and that'll be part of the recommendations that we make for the implementation plan.
Thank you. And what about new housing construction, subdivisions, apartment buildings? Will those be broadband ready, capable as they're constructed?
That's what we would like to see. Now that will take, and we've talked to the county preliminarily about this, and we've talked to a number of the county agencies, and are continuing to make some of those contacts. For instance, we worked with public safety earlier this week. We're working with health services next week. But one of the things in looking at housing is there would have to be some coordination between the providers and the developers. And there are some things that we'll recommend that the county could put into its code, depending upon state enablements, that would help facilitate that. So, and you're absolutely on point on that. The ability to get high-capacity internet access built while everything's being developed makes it much easier to turn up. It's much less costly and gets service to new developments much quicker. One of the issues that Mediacom indicates in some of the discussions we've had with them is that, some of the housing developments may be along their backbone, but not at a point where they could cost effectively extend to them. However, that's exactly what the statewide middle mile is for, and it's also what some of the funding is for, is to extend last mile infrastructure. So yeah, I think if you take a combination of all that, that'll be reflected in the plan, and then it's just getting to the implementation stage to be able to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Yes, I have one, question. It's regarding like ethnic minorities and outreach. So I do see that children and youth are part of these populations, especially here in Lake County, that it is a highly low-income county. And I can see how it could be difficult to get this information out to ethnic minorities, but the children that of these individuals, they know the language. They know they can use that information and take that information home to their parents, and like you said, making it accessible in paper,
right,
to be able to get these surveys out, and then obviously having presentations so that the information is about these programs are out there and that it's understood by these other minorities. So that's just kind of a comment that I wanted to make out there.
Are you saying communicate with the school districts and kind of use the students to get it to the parents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good thinking.
Yeah,
great idea.
That's exactly on point. Yeah, we began with the Office of Education. Talked to Brock Falkenberg over there. He then encouraged us to talk to some of the individual school districts. We've had some discussions with a couple of them that are still doing some outreach. One of the things that we've been effective in is distributing materials through the school districts. We're actually working on a project up in Washington where we're doing that right now. One of the things that, I saw the comment on Spanish. Yeah, we know that 25% of the population is Hispanic, Latinx, and we do know that obviously we'll be doing the surveys in Spanish as well as English. But we got to look at the timing of that. We're kind of working with the county because some of the efforts that we're getting into, depending on when the county wants us to make the overall presentation, may be partially reflected in the master plan update. And one of the recommendations will be to continue those efforts during the implementation planning phase. The implementation planning phase is designed to get some of this going, right, to solve some of the issues. But the way that the funding is coming down from both the state and the federal government, it's a multi-year process. So there's some funding now in 2023. There's more expected in 2024, and some of that might slip into 2025. So I think however we approach it, I think we'll be able to look at it in phases and ultimately, put together a plan that can accomplish the goal. Okay. But yeah, all those are great comments.
Thank you.
If I might add, Chair, the timing of this outreach and development of the plan is really great because it will help to inform our updates of our local area plans going forward as well. With the middle mile going through 175 through Cobb and a number of areas that are historically underserved, I think it's going to be a very strong theme that we're going to get from the public is the need for this increased broadband access. So I'm really excited that these plans are sort of overlapping.
Yeah, I think, and we encourage this, that broadband be, just like lots of other elements, be part of, the overall comprehensive plan and master planning. And I think the county, because we don't see every local government thinking that, and then it kind of catches them up, during the pandemic, or as we continue on, trying to achieve this goal. But the county, if you think about it, it already has a master plan, developed in 2019, pre-pandemic, with some of the data going back to 2017. So the county was on the right track already, and now it's really just updating it, taking advantage of everything that is going on. What do they say? There's a right time for taking action, and this is the right time.
Public comment? I think so.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to be opening up public comment to see if anybody from the public has any questions that they would like to see some answers to. If there's anybody in the chambers that wishes to speak, you may come up to the podium. And we'll also take a look in the Zoom room to see if there's any hands in there.
There are no hands raised in the Zoom room.
All right. Seeing that we have no hands in the Zoom room or in chambers, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank CBG for the presentation and look forward to the fully fleshed out report for the Board of Supervisors later this summer.
Okay, and thank you. We appreciate the commission taking time to listen to the presentation, and the comments are right on point, and we look forward to presenting it to the board, and then making sure that the public's well aware of everything that the county's doing.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you. Moving on to our second item. Public hearing was continued from June 22nd, 2023. A consideration of extension of parcel map PM 1801. The applicant is Van Eck Estates, located at 3640 Lakeview Estates Drive in Kelseyville.
Hello, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Max Stockton, and I am here to tell you about the Van Eck Estates parcel map extension. Just so you know, the applicant is here for any questions that you may have after this presentation. So beginning in 2006, the applicant went for a tentative subdivision map. And then in 2018, we saw that he decided to go from 16 parcels down to 4 parcels and created a parcel map at that time. The moratorium was in place, and as well as many other things were going on around the country and the world. And so he had a few setbacks. He was able to establish a well on site, and that well is set in place to support the 4 parcels going forward. But there are other stipulations that have kind of set him back throughout this time. June 2020, tentative parcel map was set to expire. And at this time, actually 1 month before it expired, he came in and applied for a parcel map extension. That parcel map extension was heard in November of 2020. And at that time, the Planning Commission did approve it with the stipulation that it needed to go before the Board of Supervisors. Well, at some point, the staff had extenuating circumstances, and that never made it to Board of Supervisors. And so today we are here before you for consideration of a total of 6-year extension from this November 20th date. We have come to 2023. It has been some time now, And we would like to recommend that 6-year total time extension be granted for the parcel map due to the extenuating circumstances of the error in staff and lack of the board agenda scheduling, to give the applicant opportunity to complete conditions necessary to record his final maps. Lake County subdivision ordinance allows the granting of extension for a period or periods not exceeding a total of 3 years, yet state law allows for an extension up to 6 years. The new expiration for the parcel map we are requesting would be November 12th of 2026. And that is my presentation for you today.
I have a question.
Yes.
So it says here that the state imposed a moratorium on any new connections into the water system, but it doesn't mention any connection to any sewage system. Are we still talking about individual septic systems on each parcel?
I believe that would be better directed to the applicant, but yes, I believe that was his intention. Once it was divided into the 4 parcels, each would have its own system.
Yeah, I would have concerns about that, but I'm not sure that that's our objective today, so.
I believe he could direct you better on that question.
Quick question. So regarding a total of 6-year extension, would it be 2, 3-year, the first period would be after the 3rd year to see if anything got done between those first 3 years, and then if nothing happened, an additional 3-year extension would be, or just from beginning to end it would be 6?
Yes, so the Lake County Code allows for an extension of 3 years, and we'll find that exact citation for you momentarily. The State Subdivision Map Act allows for a full extension of 6 years total. We are requesting to go with the state 6-year total because this project was sort of set aside during our massive staff turnover. And so to request the 3 years really wouldn't give him enough time to complete and satisfy his conditions of approval. As well as the septic question from Commissioner Field. Once the subdivision was downgraded to 4 parcels, all of those parcels meet the minimum acreage that is required in order to have a septic system. And so that's why that was allowed to change with the modification of the map that took place previously.
Thank you.
I have a question for the director. I'm surprised to hear the water moratorium is still in place. Is that just because the state is, I mean, so many drought-related restrictions have been lifted that, is there any reason that this one is still in place that you're aware of?
Not that I'm immediately aware of, but I'd be happy to research that and get back to the commission.
Sure, no hurry, but I'm just surprised it's still there.
Certainly.
Mr. Chair, to answer your question, our ordinance, state law allows for stricter regulations under this particular code section that relates to extensions and time for extensions. Our ordinance in Chapter 17, subpart 22.8 and the following sequence addresses that issue. While our ordinance does allow for 3 years, it is a collective amount of 3 years. So your commission could approve any number of extensions as long as collectively they do not exceed 3 years. However, there is under 22.8, the paragraph there, the provision that allows for an agreement between the applicant and the subdivision committee, which is your commission, that would allow for a change in the time limits under this code section in our ordinance. So that would allow you to go outside of the 3 years. You're not required to give a maximum amount of time. You can give the amount of time you think is appropriate based on the record in front of you. However, because state law has a maximum of 6 years, you may not exceed 6 years. So the extension you approved today could be any number of years up to 3 under our ordinance, or any number of years up to 6 years under state ordinance, if you are agreeing under 22.8 in Chapter 17 as the subdivision committee, that the time under our ordinance may be extended.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from the commission?
No.
All right, so I'm going to be opening up public comment. If anybody in the chambers wishes to speak on this project, please come up. I do know the applicant is here. If he has anything to, any comments regarding his project. Okay. We'll take a look in the Zoom room, see if there's any hands.
There are no hands in the Zoom room.
All right, seeing no hands, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Maybe I'm beating a dead horse, but just to make sure I understand this correctly, it's already been extended 3 years. We're looking at another 3 years for a total of 6. Okay. I'm ready to make a motion. I move the Planning Commission approve an extension of, oh, wait, we have to go back to the mitigated negative. I move the mitigated negative declarations previously prepared for SDO 513 and for PM 1801 do meet the requirements of Section 15162A of the CEQA guidelines, and that no additional environmental review need be prepared based on the findings listed in the staff report dated July 13th, 2023.
Second.
Oh, I thought we were going to get a roll call.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I further move the Planning Commission approve an extension of time for PMX 2001 for parcel map PM 1801 for a period of total 6 years with a new expiration date of November 12th, 2026, based on the findings listed in the staff report dated July 13th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I was listening to the language of the motion, and it said to extend for a total of 6 years. My understanding is that the extension for today is for another 3, not 6 on top of.
Yeah. For total that, as I mentioned earlier, it's retroactive, the 3 years that it's already been extended for a total of 6.
Thank you.
And it does specify a date, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The applicant or any interested person is reminded that the subdivision ordinance provides for a 15 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 15th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item. A public hearing continued from June 22nd, 2023. Consideration of administrative appeal, AA 23-01, of departmental denial of building permit for a new residence on a parcel zoned planned development commercial, PDC. The applicant, Jan and Cheryl Bazooka, located on 12546 Foothill Boulevard, Clear Lake Oaks, APN 035-141-33.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This morning, my name is Trish Turner. I'm an assistant planner with the Community Development Department of Lake County, and I will be presenting to you this administrative appeal. Our applicant, Jan Bazooka, is present today. Today, I will be presenting how our department came to the decision to deny the request for a residential house on this commercial zoned property. As you can see on the screen, this is a zoning map. The star is the property in question. It is located in the planned development commercial zoning. The project, and we analyzed the project on a few different areas, which was the Lake County General Plan, the Shoreline Communities Area Plan, and the Lake County Zoning Ordinance. The project analysis is located in an area deemed the Plaza in Clear Lake Oaks, and this was deemed or created to be the town center for Clear Lake Oaks community. There is specifically 3 different areas that came to the determination that a residence would not be an acceptable use of this property, and that would be the 6.3 Special Study Area Number 3, which is the general plan of development for the Plaza in Clear Lake Oaks. And 6.3.1 is that it supports the development of a concentrated, vibrant town center in the Clear Lake Oaks in conjunction with the Plaza, which provides services to local residents. Also, 6.3.2 of that same special study area encourages the development of small-scale retail hub that complements the Plaza, focusing on serving a pedestrian clientele and utilizing the benefits of the water frontage. So that is the Shorelines Community Areas Plan for the Plaza. The general plan for this particular property is zoned community commercial, and that is not residential. It doesn't allow for primary residential uses. And we also analyzed the Lake County zoning ordinance. This property has several different subzonings on it. Article 15, which is the Planned Development Commercial District. And what that means is it encompasses a variety of different commercial and industrial uses. And whenever somebody wants to do something on one of these particular zoned properties, they have to submit a special plan of development to our department, which has a few different requirements. Also, Article 40, which is another, it's parking combining district. It has special parking requirements because it is considered commercial. And also with any commercial property zoned in our county, they do require a design review. And then Article 59, which is the non-conforming uses for buildings and structures. So let's say hypothetically there is an existing home on a commercial property and somebody wanted and it was destroyed and they wanted to be rebuilt. It would have to be rebuilt within 2 years of it being demolished. And that's how we came to the determination to not allow somebody to build a primary residence on this particular property. So then the applicant did appeal our Community Development Department's decision, and staff recommends that, that the primary residential use is not in conformance with the Lake County Commercial Land Use Designation in the general plan. Primary residential use is not in conformance with the Shoreline Communities Area Plan, and the primary residential use is not in conformance with the Lake County zoning ordinance. The legal non-conforming use on this particular property entitlement expired 2 years after the residence was demolished in 2003. So we are recommending that this commission denies the appeal and uphold the Community Development Department's decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a quick question. There used to be a residence on that?
Yes, there was a residence that was demolished in 2003.
And then once it gets demoed, they have 2 years to
2 years,
rebuild.
correct.
And then if they had rebuilt in those 2 years, then it would have remained residential?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions?
No, I'd just like to hear if the applicant has any comments.
Sir, if you wish to speak, you can come up to the podium and, yes, right here. Just state your first and last name. Yeah.
Jan Bezuka.
Public comment or input is now open.
Yeah, I'm the owner of the property in question. I don't know, I think. So let us put it into a real life perspective. What I hear from that report is that we are proposing something unheard of and really sick. So we will show that what we are proposing is a very common way how the current California housing crisis is solved. Regarding the physical characteristics of that property, It's a little triangle, right angle triangle, 90, 60, and 30 degrees. It cannot be used as commercial. There was a residence. There is a spot in left upper corner, and the proposed house will exactly copy the location and foundation of that residence which was there before and probably burned and was demolished. So the only option, if something can be built, is residential. And regarding the commercial, you must have the parking spaces, business must be served, logistical support. It's the end of the track location, so it's out of question as a commercial. The staffing reports show how everything, the surrounding of it, is supposed to be commercial, 2 layers of commercial zoning stamped over it. However, in the real life, I don't know if someone put a boot on and walk it, it's surrounded by residential dwelling, primary residences, which are there regardless of 20 years of stamping it, whatever fancy planning name it is. The homeowners, just for the 20 years, are shackled and their hands are tied by those ordinances that they are limited in upgrading, they are limited in square footage enlargement, and they are limited in replacement. Some arbitrary issued 2 years for replacement, which was put on them. The only reason which is those things are there is ordinances to move that owners and replace it by commercial, which will have a higher tax revenue for the county. However, it didn't happen. They didn't change. It's all residential, and nobody came to really build your general plan great ideas, because there are many reasons for it. I will come to some maybe later. So, however, nevertheless, time have changed. The pendulum did swing the opposite way. Residential is hip again. So the state government declared housing crisis. They initiated many legislative initiatives to build 2.5 million housing units by 2030. And it's supposed to be done, and it's done. Utilizing non-traditional way of development, such as converting office building in mixed-use development, infill development, and building in underused commercial zoning lots. So most of that big plan is that it will be tapped into commercial lots because they are not used. There is not really demand, and that's the only way how fast and easy the housing can be built. So it's not out of the question, it's not criminal what we are proposing, regardless 27 layers. So I contacted the Lake County representative in Sacramento, a lady named Cecilia Aguilar, and she sent us, her office sent us the list of their initiatives how to solve the California housing crisis. I have some paperwork for that commission. Can I? One for each, and this may be one for each as well. One and one. Thank you. So as you can see, you know that that list is piled up with all kinds of initiatives how to help building fast. Many of those bills directly impact zoning, such as SB 9, regarding change in the single-family zoning, density, change in the required setbacks, smaller setbacks, and so on. However, the one bill which I want to point out is the bill called SB 6, sponsored by Senator Ana Caballero of Merced, Fresno, and Monterey County as well, former mayor of Salinas, good lady. She sponsored a bill which allows residential use on commercially zoned property without requirement of rezoning. SB 6 published on 09/28/22 amended Chapter 659 Government Code regarding relating to land use. So there are changes, and what we are proposing in our little way, a little noodle, is happening everywhere. As you can see on our application, I don't understand the whole system of. We applied on March 13th for use permit to grant, I think the correct term would be substitution permit, which will allow us, after issuing that use permit, to apply for the building permit. We understand that we cannot come and apply for building permit. There must be some first building block, and probably that avenue, how to build on that little noodle is to get use permit, substitution permit for 6 months, to have a period, and then put the building permit. We have ready the plans. It's not an issue of not ready. So the area, there is some time limits, like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, or there is time limits for me to speak or no?
Well, there is a time limit, but I'm just curious as to.
Yeah, I will be short. I'm just ending.
Okay.
Sometimes I get overly excited. So the area which surrounds that lot with several layers of commercial zoning is not really a sprouting hub of smart commercial activities which it was designed. There is only one thing which happened is a church. Churches are everywhere. You don't need to have 2 layers of zoning and shackle everyone around for that. So, a long time nothing happening because there is a big competition. There is maybe 30% vacancies for commercial on the main corridor of Highway 20, many undeveloped commercial lot on Highway 20. No, nobody is rushing, and the commercial is coming to the similar crisis as general real estate came in 2009, it's very difficult to get financing for commercial real estate right now. Anyway, last but not the least, we purchased this property from the county. We paid county $15,000, county benefited. We put it back on the current tax roll list. We didn't benefit. We cannot use it. We cannot enjoy any property rights. Everyone just wants to be paid taxes. Taxes are the smallest part. There is a sewer and water for all those years, 20 plus years after that fire, and that the Clear Lake Oak Water Company is billing monthly, big bill, so it piles, and I start to understand why those previous owners walk away from it, default on it, because why you would pay the bills to everyone when you cannot do anything with it? Who would do that? So if we consider those massive initiatives on the state level, how to dramatically produce millions of housing units, it's also backed by 22 billion from the state budget. We are discussing here some really insignificant task of 2 years, some imposed mandatory periods and so on. It's a little tinkering here, a little nitpicking compared to the bigger picture. So in closing, I hope that someone here will rise to the occasion today and will think big, bigger than tinkering little overlayered property which is there frozen. In closing, what is the best interest for the community development in that land use? Is it that it will not be developed and will be part of that non-producing eyesore there? Or is it that it will be developed as originally was, residential property, new house? Comparing the benefits of those two options, I say build a house. That concludes my performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll be, actually, let's check the Zoom room to see if there's any hands in there.
No hands in the Zoom room.
Okay, so I'll be closing public comment and bringing it back to the commission. So I understand that there used to be a house there, and that was my same question that I had. But this area was specifically designed for commercial. It's in writing, and when you purchase the property, I'm sure, I mean, if you're ever purchasing a property, you would kind of see what you want to do with it in the future, what's allowed, and it's a whole process of development that goes into it with any property, no matter where it is, what you're allowed to do with it and what your plans are to do with it. So seeing that it is within this area, but also checking on the surrounding areas, you do see homes, and you make a good point that would you rather just have an empty lot or something there, but that something there has to follow the rules with what is planned for that area. So that's just kind of a comment that I wanted to make, that I do understand that it would be nice to see a nice brand new house on there, but it's about the use and what the county has planned for that area. So that's just kind of a comment that I wanted to make.
And I will echo Chair Chavez. I'm all for pro-growth, new development, new housing, all of that. We are in a position where we need to honor what the planned development would be for that parcel. And it starts with one. If we can set the standards and our rules and stand firm on what the vision was for this property, everything will fall into line. And in reflection on the applicant bringing up different ways to cure or work with the housing crisis and using retail space, that's usually existing structures, like gas stations or something where they can build vertically to incorporate housing into that. So I will just stand with staff and hope that this will kind of, in the long run, turn into what they actually visualize the plaza being, a community area. And the park that's there currently is amazing. It's very nicely thought out and it's well maintained. And in the future, I would hope that it does turn into what it's supposed to be. And the current property owners that are there, I'm sure that the zoning is PDC, and they know that moving forward, there are plans for those specially zoned parcels. So I stand with staff and with Mr. Chavez.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate Mr. Bazooka's predicament, and I agree that the legislation that's been recently passed and signed into law is important and can make a difference, but at this point that's rather aspirational. And I can today, as a commissioner, cannot make a finding that would justify overturning the director's administrative denial of your application.
Yeah, I would just like to echo what my colleagues have said. I was really interested to hear about Senate Bill 6, and I really appreciate your comments. And I understand your predicament, but what we're doing here is we're trying to plan for the future. And so a lot of effort has gone into this plan, and I got to respect that. So I understand your predicament, but that's what I'm seeing here.
So I want to add, in respect to all of the comments, to Mr. Bazooka's concerns, there's a lot happening, and I lived in this area all my life. I frequent the local red and white market. The original owners were friends of my grandmother. And the part that's hard for me is seeing this place stay the same. I haven't seen development happen here in decades. There's businesses that come and use the same pizza place to a barbecue place to back to a pizza place. Nothing has changed in my lifetime in this area. And I don't think it will. And the unfortunate part is we have our master plans, we have these ordinances, and sometimes they don't work. And I think we have to acknowledge in this instance it's not working for this owner of this property. And I say that in frustration because I drive through this area and I see people sleeping in the park. I see people living on these properties that aren't developed illegally. And there's a lot of work it takes to remove people, to clean up these properties. And it's a hardship, and if he's still having to pay taxes, at what point are we responsible to support and help address these concerns? He brought up another issue, which is a prominent one with the Clear Lake Oaks Water District, is if you have a hookup and you don't have anything on that piece of land, they're still charging you fees for that water. And so these are all concerns that are impacting the crisis of housing and development. And so at some point we have to find ways to mitigate or remedy these issues because, like I say, I don't see this becoming anything commercial in my lifetime. And that's unfortunate. I don't see new business coming into Clear Lake Oaks, into this area. The county might develop and improve this area, but other than that, no businesses are coming from the outside to this area. And that's just the reality. And so I feel for the applicant. I understand where you're coming from, and I wish there was a way we could make this work, but I don't see a path forward to do that. So I'm going to reluctantly agree with the commission and staff, and I do feel for the situation you're in because I know a lot of people are in this situation. So that's kind of my comments.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just briefly, SB 6 has been brought up, so I thought I'd provide some clarification. SB 6 is a very specific statute that applies to housing development projects, and that's a term that's defined within that particular statute. And there are a number of prerequisites, number of project requirements, and a number of criteria related to such housing projects. And as presented today, the project in front of you would not qualify.
Okay, well, Commissioner Brown, that was very well said. That's exactly what's going on in that area and in a lot of places in Lake County, that it's a difficult situation for this applicant to be in. And I mean, that's all we can do. This house could be built in the next year and you could have something there, but it's just we're tied with the zoning and kind of what everything is. So, but it's sometimes the law or the rules that are set, like you said, they don't function as well as they sound on paper in real life. So, but it's just where we are for this one.
So are we prepared to make a motion? Are we still discussing?
That was all the comments I had. I'm ready to move forward.
I have no other comments.
Okay, I'll move that the Planning Commission deny the administrative appeal AA 23-01 of Jan Bazooka with the findings listed in staff report dated June 22nd, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passes. The applicant or any interested person is reminding that the zoning ordinance provides for actually 1 second.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you. Provides for a 7-day calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th day following the Planning Commission's decision on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Okay. Moving on to non-timed items or department update.
Thank you. I am very excited for today's department update. I wanted to introduce the commission to our new Deputy Community Development Administrator. This is Shannon Walker-Smith. I have known Shannon since I first moved to Lake County and started working with Healthy Start. At that time, she was involved in the school districts. She has considerable experience through the school district system, both here and in Mendocino County.
Tricia, would you mind taking that conversation? The director is still making a presentation.
Sorry. Thank you. Even though her background is in education and not community development, she has absolutely hit the ground running, and her managerial experience and her experience in grants have been of already great benefit to our department. So if she'd like to say a few words, I'll hand it over to her, but you don't have to. You can smile and wave if you want.
Oh, come on.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. It's like kind of a full circle moment, right? I've known Christina since she was a little girl.
Yeah, kind of weird. No, in a good way. And just to echo that, to see someone who's grounded and rooted, and same thing with Director Turner. There will be a changing of the guards eventually with the county people that have been here for 20 some odd, 30 some odd years, and we appreciate all that they've done. But it's nice to see new old blood, if you will.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Additionally, Mr. Chavez was one of my students at Lower Lake High School.
No way.
So
Yeah.
it is. It's really fun for me to see young people that I, have known for a long time. And of course, I, was born and raised here in Lake County. And so I have a real heart for community work, and I'm really pleased to be here in community development.
Cool. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
I see a difference already. Usually Maria has a furrow in her brow, and that's all gone. So thank you.
Well, that's good.
Glad to help.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. The only other update I have is regarding our general and local area plan updates. After this meeting concludes, we're going to have a consultant selection committee meeting. We did receive 3 proposals for the project, and so hopefully we will make that decision in a timely manner and get we need to conduct interviews and then put our selection before the board, hopefully for the first meeting in August. So that is moving along.
Exciting. Yeah.
It is exciting, yeah. So more to come on that one, and that'll conclude my report for today.
Well, thanks for today's presentation, too, on broadband. That was
Yeah.
Yes, we have Lake County has long been needing broadband experience. So,
Yeah.
thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, Shannon. Thank you.
So meeting adjourned at 10:15.
Thanks.
I want to hear stories about these two as little men.